Okay, Rambam.
Morning.
We have less than a week to finish the three, all of the Rambam. Next Monday we finish it. Yeah, amazing. So we're in Hilchos Ovel, the laws of mourning when you lose a loved one. With the exception of six relatives mentioned in the Torah and his wife, um, whenever a Kohen becomes impure because of a contact with a corpse, if there are witnesses and a warning is administered, he's punished by lashes because he has to remain pure. He can't become, in the times of the Holy Temple, of course, right? Um, if there are witnesses, yes, so then he gets lashes. As it states in verse, no one shall contract ritual impurity for the sake of the deceased person among his people. He has to remain pure. This applies whether one touches the corpse, stands over it, or carries it. And it applies to a corpse and to all other forms of ritual impurity stemming from a corpse as implied, but no one shall contract ritual impurity for the sake of a deceased person among his people. Right, the Kohen, right? In Hilchas Tumas Mace, we already described all the factors associated with the corpse that convey ritual impurity according to scriptural law and according to rabbinic law, right? There's different ways that you become ritually impure, and a Kohen has to, besides the seven people that he can become impurified for, he um, has to remain pure, right? Halacha number two. Thank you. Similarly, so today's learning in honor of David Abbas Shendel for a complete and full recovery.
Of
Similarly, a kohen
me,
receives lashes if he touches a grave. He may, however, touch clothes that touch the corpse, even though by doing so he contracts ritual impurity that continues for 7 days. Halacha number three. Similarly, if a kohen enters a covered structure, he enters a covered structure into which ritual impurity enters, he is lashed. This applies even though the source of impurity itself is another building. So a covered structure that has ritual impurity, right? So he enters, that's an oihel, we know, like covered structure, and therefore there's impurity there. And this applies even though the source of impurity itself is in another building. We already explained that all types of tents into which ritual impurity can enter and depart, laws involving foliage and projections and entities of which ritual impurity and those that are interposed between ritual impurity, which involve scriptural law, which involve rabbinic law, all of these discussions are in Hilchos Tumas Meis. There, when we spoke about the laws of impurity, we spoke about what it means and a kohen, a priest, meaning that they have to stay away from those impurities. So you can be it could be a corpses in this room. That's what, it's interesting in Israel, in Hadassah Hospital, and I think other hospitals, they're very careful that a door would open and the next door would not open until this first door was closed. So, because when you have doors that open, therefore there's a flow of impurities, right? This is all spiritual stuff that is, you know, not of a rational nature. but that's the way of impurity is, so it would flow. But if you had one door open and then it closes, so it stops the impurity. So therefore, a doctor who is a kohen, for example, or a kohen who's going in whatever, so there can be ways for that kohen to enter into a hospital and not become impure. So these were all, they were explained that non-Jews do not convey ritual impurity through overhangs, because that's of a rabbinic nature. Therefore, their graves are pure, and the priest may enter the cemetery and walk on the graves. It's forbidden only to touch impurity or carry it, as we explained there. So that's speaking about, so distinction between, I don't remember the details over there now. I think we're going to go learn this again. Yeah, okay. Halacha number 4. The following laws apply when a kohen enters a building where a corpse is located or a cemetery inadvertently, and he was given a warning after he discovers the fact. So remember, lashes is only because he was warned. Wouldn't be given life. It's inadvertent, then it's inadvertent, right? But if he was warned, don't do this, there's a corpse there. And he said, no, I don't care. So that's when he would get lashes, right? But what happens if he walked in inadvertently? Then he's told, hey, what are you doing here? There's a corpse here. If he jumps and leaves, he's not liable. If the hour he remains there by the time he takes to prostrate oneself, which we explained with regard to impurity in the temple, he's lashed. So in other words, if he went out quickly, not a problem. But if he kind of tarried, so then he would be lashed, right? If he entered and departed, if he was given a warning each time, he's given lashes for every entrance, because each one is a separate one and a separate warning. Similarly, if he touches a corpse, is giving a if he touches a corpse, is given a warning and disengages himself, and afterwards touches it, and is given a warning again. Even if the sequence is repeated 100 times, he is given lashes for each touch, because each one is a separate prohibition that he is transgressing. Now, if he was touching it and he's given repeatedly a warning, then it's the same thing, because it's the same act of transgression, not a separate act of transgression. Okay? That's why he had to disengage each time and get a warning each time, that he would get it, 100 times or whatever amount of times he would be warned. The following rules apply when one causes a kohen to contract ritual impurity. If they both acted intentionally, the kohen receives lashes, and the person who caused him to contract impurity violates a prohibition against placing a stumbling block in front of the blind. If the kohen was not aware of the transgression, the person who caused him to contract impurity acted intentionally, that person receives lashes. So if the kohen was aware, so then he wouldn't get lashes. But if he wasn't aware and it was unintentional, right, inadvertent, and this person caused it for him, so then that person would get lashes. A kohen gadol, high priest, may not become impure for the sake of his relatives. As we've learned, he shall not become impure for his father and mother's sake. Even for parents, he can't become impure. He's the high priest. Similarly, he does not enter a shelter where there is a corpse, even a corpse of one of his relatives. He shall not enter a place where there is any corpse. Thus, we learn that he's not liable both for entering and for not becoming impure. That he is liable. We learned that he is liable for both. Others, there's two things here: for him to enter and to become impure. By a kohen, there's only becoming impure. But for a kohen gadol, who's greater holiness, a greater holy person, so there's two prohibitions. So what does it imply? If the kohen gadol, the high priest, touches or carries a corpse, he receives lashes for one transgression. If he enters a shelter and remains there until the person dies, and he enters a chest, a bureau, or a drawer, and a colleague comes and opens up the top of the container, and thus his contact, he is thus contact with impurity, because it was in the drawer, let's say there, some kind of impurity, and his entrance into shelter come at the same time, receives two such lashes. They have to come to both together at the same time, not one after the other. For the prohibition against entering and the prohibition against becoming impure. Two things. If the Kohen Gadol became impure beforehand and then entered a shelter where the corpse is located, if he is warned, he should receive lashes even for his entry. Okay. Because there was one warning, two different things. Here it's two warnings at separate times. So therefore you get twice. When a Kohen, or even a Kohen Gadol high priest, encounters an unattended corpse on the road, he's obligated to become impure for the sake of burial. What is meant an unattended corpse? A Jewish corpse cast away on the road without anyone to bury it, right? You're on the way and you see, you're a Kohen, and you see someone was killed. So you have a mitzvah to bury that person. This is halacha conveyed in the received tradition. When does the above apply? When the Kohen is alone, there's no one else with him. Even when he calls out on the road, no one answers him. However, when he calls, others answer, is not considered an unintended corpse. Instead, he should call to others, and they should come and tend to the corpse. Right? If a Kohen and a Nazarite, also has to remain pure, a Nazarite, are proceeding on the road and they encounter an unintended corpse, in Hebrew it's called mace mitzvah. A person that died, that's a mitzvah to bury them, because no one else is there. Right? The Nazarite should tend to it. So it's a Kohen or a Nazarite first. The rationale is that holiness is not an eternal nature of a Nazarite, right? It's only for an impending time. The Kohen, even an ordinary Kohen, should not become impure, right? Because you have the choice between the two, Nazarite or the Kohen. If a high priest was going together with an ordinary Kohen, the ordinary Kohen should become impure. The general principle who is higher level in holiness should become impure last. When a Sigan or the priest anointed to lead the army at war encountered a corpse, the priest anointed to lead the army to war should become impure, not the Sigan, not the second in command. When the Nasi dies, everyone, even Kohanim, should become impure for his sake. Nasi is the leader of the Sanhedrin of the High Court. Everybody becomes impure. Our sages had him considered as an unintended corpse because everyone is obligated in his honor. Similarly, all must observe the rites of Aninus for his sake. Wow. "11. The daughters of Aaron were not warned to avoid the ritual impurity imparted by a corpse. This is derived from the verse in the say to the priests, the sons of Aaron, implied that the sons of Aaron and not the daughters of Aaron. Similarly, halal, they are permitted to become impure. This is also derived from the words, priests, the sons of Aaron, included the prohibition, their priesthood must be intact. A halal means someone who's born from a kohen, but is not, but lost the priesthood. So someone was not a kohen, for example. When a kohen is a minor, the adults are warned that they should not have him contact ritual impurity. If he comes in contact and contract impurity on his own initiative, the court is not obligated to separate him from the source of impurity. Father, however, must educate him holiness of being a kohen. So underage should not, you got to educate the child, but not obligated because they're underage. When you become impure, of course, you can go to the mikvah. You can have if it's with a corpse, it's not enough a mikvah. You need the red heifer, right, to be well. All right, 13. 4 cubits circumscribed around the corpse are deemed impure. Right, a hand's breadth is a cubit, so it's about 6 feet. Is considered impure. Any kohen that enters into these 4 cubits is given stripes for rebellious conduct. It's only a rabbinic law, not biblical law, and therefore you're getting rabbinical stripes. Similarly, if a kohen enters the base of pras, which is not exactly certain if there's a corpse buried here or where it is buried actually, I'll go into the diaspora where everything's impure in the diaspora, become impure through contact with a mixture of blood, a gravestone, or stones which support a gravestone and the like, given stripes of rebellious conduct. That's rabbinic because these entities are a source of ritual impurity by a rabbinic decree, as we explained in Hilchos Tumas Meis. If, however, the kohen enters a cemetery, receives lashes according to scriptural law, because that's for sure a corpse are there. Halacha 14, it is permissible for a kohen to become impure through walking through the base of pras or the diaspora for the sake of a mitzvah when there's no other way. He goes to marry or to study Torah, then he can go through these places of rabbinic um, status of impurity, even because now he's doing a biblical law, studying Torah, getting married. Even though there is someone who could teach him in Eretz Yisrael, he's permitted to leave because a person does not merit to learn from every colleague. Right? This is where you want to learn because you're going to learn better. So you can leave Israel to go to learn in Montreal if you want. And for sure, you could leave Peru, or you could leave New York, or you could leave Arizona. Similarly, a person may incur ritual impurity that is rabbinic in origin to show respect to other people. What is implied? If the mourner walked through a base of pras, everyone follows after him to comfort him. Similarly, he may walk over the coffins of the dead to greet Jewish kings. It's allowed even to greet non-Jewish kings, Gentile kings, so that the distinction will be able to be made between them and Jewish kings when the glory will return to its place. Similar leniency is granted to analogous situations. Also, a kohen may incur ritual impurity of rabbinic origin to enter a judgment and disputation with non-Jews concerning property, for he is saving it from their hands. Similar laws apply in analogous situations. Okay, but there we're going to stop. All right, thank you, folks.